Greetings, brothers and sisters. Today we continue on with our series, Summer in the Sun. And the question I'm asking today is, what is your heart like? The problem is that we can easily become hypocrites, say that we're Christian on the one hand and live like non-Christians on the other hand. Jesus had some hard-hitting things to say to the Pharisees of his own day. There are 7 things mentioned, and I'm going to read these scriptures to you from Matthew 23. Woe to you, teachers of the law and Pharisees, you hypocrites! You shut the door of the kingdom of heaven in people's faces. You yourselves do not enter, nor will you let those enter who are trying to. Woe to you, teachers of the law and Pharisees, you hypocrites! You travel over land and sea to win a single convert, and when you have succeeded, you make them twice as much a child of hell as you are. Woe to you, blind guides, you say, if anyone swears by the temple, it means nothing, but anyone who swears by the gold of the temple is bound by that oath. Woe to you, teachers of the law and Pharisees, you hypocrites! You give 1/10 of all your spices, mint, dill, and cumin, but you have neglected the more important matters of the law, justice, mercy, and faithfulness. You should have practiced the latter without neglecting the former. Woe to you, teachers of the law and Pharisees, you hypocrites! You clean the outside of the cup and dish, but inside they are full of greed and self-indulgence. Woe to you, teachers of the law and Pharisees, you hypocrites! You are like whitewashed tombs, which look beautiful on the outside, but on the inside are full of the bones of the dead and everything unclean. In the same way, on the outside you appear as people as righteous, but on the inside you are full of hypocrisy and wickedness. Woe to you, teachers of the law and Pharisees, you hypocrites! You build tombs for the prophets and decorate the graves of the righteous, and you say, if we had lived in the days of our ancestors, we would not have taken part with them in shedding the blood of the prophets. You snakes! You brood of vipers! How will you escape being condemned to hell? We have to examine our hearts. We don't want to be the hypocrites that Jesus is getting stuck into in Matthew 23. We need to examine our hearts. I had an actual heart attack in April, I think it was, last year. And just in December, I had to do a stress test in Engadine at a heart clinic there. And they make you walk and then run on a treadmill, and they attach all kinds of wires to you and tell you how well you're doing. For me, when they looked at my blood and they looked at my stress test, they said I could do a little better. But you need to examine yourself against some kind of criteria. You need to examine yourselves, in our case, in the light of God's word and in light of our relationship with Jesus. Jesus said this about our heart. He went on, what comes out of a person is what defiles them. For it is from within, out of a person's heart, that evil thoughts come. Sexual immorality, theft, murder, adultery, greed, malice, deceit, lewdness, envy, slander, arrogance, and folly. All these evils come from inside and defile a person. Well, we know as we look at our hearts that things aren't perfect. Sometimes we're just drawn into social media and we're interested in what people say about us or what is said about others. We are people that indulge in gossip, which is a sin. Sometimes people are drawn into pornography, another sin, or greed. There are so many things that draw us in and pull us away from Jesus. Sometimes it's simply the fact that we have given up the discipline of going to church, the spiritual discipline of going to church. Jesus talks to us. He asks us to examine our hearts, our spiritual being. And brothers and sisters, often what Jesus would see would be disappointing to him. Jesus diagnoses the human condition. He diagnoses our spiritual condition. Well, ever since the fall of man into sin in Genesis chapter 3, we know we have a spiritual problem. We have a heart problem. David said this in Psalm 51, "Surely I was sinful at birth, sinful from the time my mother conceived me." The wonderful thing as Christians is to know that Jesus has cleansed our heart. He's taken away all our sins. And yet we know at the same time that on this side of the grave, from a human point of view, we continue to sin. And we are called to examine ourselves. The writers of the New Testament ask us to do so. In 1 Corinthians 11, this is what happens when it comes to the Lord's Supper. Everyone ought to examine themselves before they eat of the bread and drink from the cup. In 2 Corinthians 13, verse 5, we read, "Examine yourselves to see whether you are in the faith. Test yourselves. Do you not realize that Christ Jesus is in you, unless, of course, you fail the test?" This is just a quote that I picked up. A tough but spiritual benefit question to ask ourselves regularly is, what is my spiritual condition? The prophet Jeremiah called God's people to honest self-evaluation and repentance. Let us examine our ways and test them, and let us return to the Lord. Scripture calls us to test everything, renounce evil, and hold fast to what is good. We might consider making this our prayer as David did. "Search me, God, and know my heart. Test me and know my anxious thoughts. See if there is any offensive way in me, and lead me in the way everlasting." Self-examination is needed this side of the grave. And if you feel disappointed in yourself, in your spiritual condition, you need to pray. And we all need to pray this prayer. Let me lead you in this prayer. And perhaps you can say these words with me. Please help me to examine my life. I know that I often fail to live according to your will. I pray this prayer from the Psalms. Search me, God, and know my heart. Test me and know my anxious thoughts. See if there is any offensive way in me, and lead me in the way everlasting. Amen.